On December 6th, I put 5. Yeah, maybe it's December 5, 1996. Alan Greenspan said the stock market was acting irrational and there was irrational exuberance in the stock market. And he was right. There was irrational exuberance. The market was acting irrationally. And it took 40 months for his thesis to play out. And if you sold your stocks when Greenspan said it was acting irrational, you got to get out or it's going to crash, you would have missed out on 40 months of gains from about 1,200 to over 5,000 on the Nasdaq. And there was a lot of excitement in those times when the internet was exploding. You're getting email from people who live in other countries, and it was exciting. You had Lycos and AOL and Excite.com and Yahoo. And it was very tangible. You could see it. You get on your computer and wow, this company's doing this and it looks fantastic. My point is, there's a lot of people saying these moves are irrational in the market right now. It's overvalued. The Nasdaq historically trades at about 22 PE and now it's 27. Well, big deal. It could go to 37 or 47 or 57, and you don't want to have a closed mind and sell out and miss out on a move like that. And I think that we're in for something like this on the artificial intelligence, which is less tangible than the the AI. I mean, is more, yeah, artificial intelligence is less tangible than, getting on your computer and getting email from, people from other countries or doing business online. It was very obvious. But the Nasdaq here last week just broke out of this consolidation period here. And I think you just have to have an open mind. This is a weekly chart of the Nasdaq. Currently, back from July, it hit that high of 18,671. Then it corrected. There was a 16% correction in the market. That's a pretty stiff correction right there. And then last week it just broke out. I'm going to get to all that stuff in a minute. I just want to point out, make the point that you got to keep an open mind and be flexible. And that, you're going to hear a lot of this noise as the AI revolution plays out, that the market's overvalued. There's irrational moves in some of these stocks. And yeah, they could stay irrational for a long, long, long time. And you don't want to be short. You want to be on the right side of the market. You want to be on the right side of the stocks. And a lot of people are going to point to, climax tops and all that. They can go a lot higher for a lot longer. It's like a rubber band. It gets stretched one way and then it gets stretched the other. When we were in the bear market, if I go to the weekly right here, it's like a pendulum. The pendulum swung to the downside a little too far, and now it's swinging to the upside. How far does it go? Nobody knows. Nobody knows, but keep an open mind. As long as we're seeing stocks making new highs, the index making new highs, they're likely to keep making more new highs until, the trend bends at the end. We're going to hang with it. So pretty obvious trend here. This is a daily chart, and welcome to my weekly review, by the way. Thank you for watching. But we just broke out there that I just showed that on the weekly chart. This is a daily chart where the Nasdaq broke out. It got a little cautious ahead of the election. And then it broke out, after there was a decisive victory and there was a clear winner. There was no disputing the outcome. So the index took off. A lot of stocks took off right away too. And then on Thursday, Jerome Powell spoke. And usually when the Fed chairman speaks and changes interest rates, you get a lot of volatility. But this thing didn't move, and that told me that they're just buy programs are on. This is Powell right here, and it just kind of goes flatline. Uh, so normally it would do something like this, gyrate up and down and up and down and be all wild, but it didn't do anything. So they're just buying last week, buy, 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 buy. That's all. After that election decision, it was just buy, buy, buy. So anyway, just want to point out, you're going to hear a lot of nonsense. Stick to your conviction. Stick to your, the trend. The trend is your friend until it bends at the end. Don't fight the Fed. The Fed's on our side for now. So all those Wall Street sayings or phrases are playing out now in the market. So you should, take advantage of this time, because I just showed you the Nasdaq from 1996 to 2000. You can make life-changing money in that time if you're in the right stocks. And I'm going to get to some of those in a minute. I just have to point out a couple of things here with the indexes. I said you want to have as many, tailwinds, from the index, and you just want as many tailwinds at your back as you can when you're putting your hard-earned money to work in the stock market. And so we have a lot of these tailwinds right now. I just showed you the Nasdaq, which closed. It had an all-time high last week and it closed at what, 19,286. This thing could go to 20, 21, 22, 25,000 before it stops. So, keep an open mind, just take it a day at a time. And as long as this is heading higher, it's trending above the moving averages, just stick with it. Right now it's 4% above its 21, 6.7% above the 50. So yeah, it's getting a little hot. And fund managers might come in on Monday and say, we might need to take a little profits, but that's okay. That's expected. You could see the big volume bars coming in. So the institutions are supporting the market and supporting a lot of leading stocks, which I say I'm going to get to in a minute. The S&P 500, people making a lot of noise about it. Yeah, it hit 6,000 yesterday. Pulled back a little bit, finished 4.5 points off 6,000. So yeah, this could blow right through this as well. You could see the breakout there. So yeah, don't argue with the market. That would be my number one you know thought. Don't argue with the market. It's speaking loudly. You got to listen and just play along. Okay, so the SPY, like I said, 6,000 Dow Jones Industrial Average. NVIDIA went in there on Friday, and Sherwin-Williams and Intel and Dow came out of the Dow. So there's no more Dow in the Dow, but crossed above 44,000. So these are, milestone numbers, right? 6,000 for the S&P, 44,000 for the Dow Jones, and it just closed a tick below it. But just very healthy action last week. If you looked at some of your leading stocks, you could see they were up 20, 30, 40%. While I guess I'll go back to the Nasdaq because I skipped on that point. The Nasdaq was up 1,046 points or 5.74%. And it's a very strong move as it bounced off its moving average. It was cautious going into the elections, and then the buy programs were definitely the buy button was button was pushed, and it became kind of easy those last few days. So anyway, I guess I got to show the IWM, the Russell, kind of a big move here after the election, making a new high, flat day on Thursday, and pushed up to another new high on Friday. So that's good action for the small caps. And anyway, I'm gonna push along here and get to some stocks because we covered Greenspan's irrational exuberance and the election and the Fed. No volatility on the Fed, which is pretty crazy, and that's very telling for me. Just a real strong market. Now, I mentioned NVIDIA's going into the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and this has just been a monster stock. It's got that, standard buy point at 140. It had this little wedge pattern, we've seen this a lot lately where it finds support at a moving average and bounces. But they have earnings coming up here, and NVIDIA, I mentioned it's been a big winner for a long, long time, and you could see. So this is a late stage base as it goes into its earnings report, and they've been delivering, triple digit, 500, 470, 450 earnings, right? Last was 152. So the comps are going to be a lot tougher. So it's not going to have 150% growth, but all they have to do is beat Wall Street estimates, and I think they'll do that. So if they beat the expectations, I could see NVIDIA, taking out the 150, 160 level. I would expect that maybe a 20% move from that 140 buy point, but they have to deliver the earnings, and we're just gonna have to wait on that. Another one, obviously, Tesla, part of the new administration here, they're going to benefit. And once again, you see this, and I don't like this action here, is it made this bull wedge pattern, which I like very much, and it came back to support, but it undercut this gap low right there, yeah, of a 242.65, and it traded below it here, so that always makes me nervous. 238, yeah. So it undercut the gap low and then blasted higher after the election. So all bets are off. Things change, right? This is why I always say you got to be flexible. Things obviously change for Tesla. And you could see big buyers coming in these big blue bars. So, that's something that you could take advantage of. I believe that, it definitely traded above its, long-term downtrending line with that gap higher. And then, last week just, but I want to take a look at the monthly because I think this is in play here. The 414.50 from November of 2021 before the bear market hit. And once again, that downtrending line, it just cranked above it, and now it's on an uptrend here. And yeah, I could see Tesla definitely taking out the 414.50. And you get these large liquid leaders like NVIDIA and Tesla moving higher. They're definitely going to have an impact on your indexes. So yeah, I like both of those names right now. And some of the other Mag 7s I don't like as much, but definitely I like those two. All right, I'm just going to do something different this week because we're in the midst of earnings season. We're seeing a lot of gaps higher, and I get questions on that, like how do I play a gap? Well, that's up to each individual, how you play that and what you can stomach. And if it, it depends. Like if you bought Palantir here at 27, you're just riding high and riding the trend. Some people might say that this is a, climax top, and it might be because it's pretty far out from its base. But let's go to like a 10-minute chart or something. So it breaks out, right? How do I buy this sucker? Well, I don't like buying anything that goes below the low of that breakout day. So this didn't do that. And it just kept going higher and higher and higher. And they're just paying higher prices, willing to pay higher prices. So sometimes, you just, I know people, if there's a big gap up in the morning, they see in pre-market big volume coming in, they just buy some in the morning. And if it undercuts that low of 48, what is it, 46.86? Yeah, if it takes out that low, it's adios muchachos. But you can see the 10 is already trending above that low. So I don't know. Palantir looks to me like it's just wants to go higher, and it's what Dan Ives from Wedbush calls it the Messi of AI. So we'll see. I mean, there's a lot of opinions on Palantir that it's climax top, but I would just if I owned it, which I don't, depending upon where you got in, is how much tolerance you could have. I don't like letting profits turn into losses, so that would be a line in the sand for me. 46.86, the low of the gap day, but. Look at this closing on Friday, 97% of its daily range, and like, just big buying here. So Palantir gap higher of 23%, big move here, making new highs. And if you just look at the weekly, I would still consider this like new merchandise here. The IPO was $45, went through its institutional due diligence phase, and now it's on its advanced phase. And I don't know, I don't know. I don't own it, so I don't have to think about it. But very nice move, gap higher. Another one that gapped higher on Friday is the AXON, which is safety, security, taser, military, police, yeah, law enforcement, products. And you can see this one gap higher. Once again, like I said, you're going to hear a lot of people say climax tops and it's overvalued, blah blah blah. This thing could go a lot higher. It was up 41% last week. So, and that's not Aunt Sally buying this thing. So I'm just pointing out gaps higher. Where's the line in the sand? For me, it would be if it took out that low, 515. So you got a long way to go. Yeah. So anyway, $90 move down. You don't want to give that back. So anyway, Axon, nice move. And I'm just going to go through some of these earnings gaps because it's pretty phenomenal what we saw last week. This is TOST, which is your finance credit card payment group. It's a top 50 group. So a top stock and a pretty strong group. You can see the big volume bars coming in here. Once again, the low of the session there is 34.71. So I wouldn't let it go below that, but everything's moving higher. You can see the RS line driving through the moving averages. So that's just showing incredible strength and a really strong move. AMSC is another one that reported. That's not quite the gap. Oh, I know. I wanted to point this out because, yeah, it's near a buy point here at 32.70. near a standard buy point, but it's pretty extended from its 10 EMA, 22% above the 10. So, yeah, I don't like buying stocks that are that far above their moving average. I would let it calm down a little bit here. There's your move higher. And yeah, I don't know. I just, 3270 is a appealing, price for me, but I want it closer to the moving average. So I'd like to see it calm down, trade sideways for a week or so. But you could, as Mick Jagger saying, you don't always get what you want, you get what you need. All right, Upstart reported on Thursday evening. Once again, that bull wedge pattern that we've seen a lot, but I can't buy ahead of earnings because it's too much of a coin flip. So I bought this one after, and because it had the volume and it had all the profile that I look for in a stock that's gapping higher. A lot of short interest, 46% move on Friday. So this one was moving in pre-market, which I put on my. I'll go to the 5 minute here on my report at mcstockcharts.com, and this thing just blasted higher. So if you bought in this first half hour, you're to the good. Yeah, it pulled back a little profit taking, but closed near the high of that daily range. So it took about, yeah, a half an hour there to get up to what, 77 or so, and then, pull back a little bit. Then it crossed above 80, 81, and closed right at 81. So, that's a nice little trade there for Upstart. Big move, big volume, not to be ignored. Okay, the next one that I was looking at, I did not buy this one. Docs, I was definitely tempted. It hit 60 and then pulled back. And so right there, if I own that one, line in the sand would be 55.25. Don't want to let it go below that and get into that gap zone because then it's a coin flip which way it's going to go. You want it to stay above. Fortinet is another one that I like personally. I have a personal bias because my wife worked at this company. It's a really good company. Once again, that bull wedge pattern back to the moving average, and pretty light volume. Last couple of days, after the election, it started ramping. And the thing I like about this stock, besides the earnings of 54% earnings growth, is that it closed at 94% of its daily range. 10% move with that kind of volume, not to be ignored. Fortinet. All right, VEEV. VEEV is an old head. This one, it's near that buy point. Uh, this is a little different here because if it traded below that buy point of 226.47 and the low on Friday was 230.12, I might be interested in that. 225.64. So if it gaps down and fills that gap and trades around that standard buy point, that might be a stock of interest for me. And that's just the way I play it. I mean, everybody's different. Uh, AppLovin gapped higher on Thursday following its earnings report. Once again, real strong, triple digit earnings. You wonder why stocks go up? This is why. Yeah, I mean, if you follow Peter Lynch or William O'Neill, they're big earnings guys, and this one delivered the earnings. It was rewarded. And like I said, the gap day low was 228.10. You don't want to let it go below that. This one pulled back a little bit on Friday morning. This started ramping higher, just buying like wildfire. Yeah, there's your pullback. It pulled back to 243 on Friday morning, 5 minutes in, and it just buy programs. Just see you later. Up 290 it closed at. I learned after the bell on Friday that it's going into the Nasdaq 100 replacing Dollar Tree. Could be fueling some of this buying, but I don't question it. I mean, when you see institutions supporting a stock like this, if I go back to the weekly and just point out, look at all the big blue volume bars. That is not Aunt Sally buying it. Um, that's institutions, fund managers. Who do we have here? Columbia. There'll be more. This is perfect type of stock that new merchandise had the IPO was a bear market, right? And the due diligence phase, and now it's in its advanced phase. This is not as advanced from its base as Palantir. I think it's about 11 or 12 weeks. Palantir is like 18. So pretty similar action in those two on the weekly. So our friend Scott St. Clair's in the markets pointed out, this is a little longer in the tooth, extended from its base here on the weekly. So anyway, yeah, between those two, I would, I own app, I don't own Palantir, so that shows you where my heart is. All right, a couple more here, actually a lot more. This is just amazing, amazing action in the market. You really have to take advantage of this. This is FARO Technologies. Have no idea what they do, except for it's making their shareholders a lot of money. The gap is what I'm interested in. Yeah, 36% move with nearly 400% above average volume. That one looks good to me. Bros is one that I like. I didn't buy it, but that's something that I like a lot. Okay, so the low on this gap day was 43.50. Then on Friday, it kind of tested that at 43.62. So if it goes below that 43.50 level, if I owned it, I would just be ready to kick it to the curb. I want to point out Kava, which reports this week. On their last earnings report, if I could zoom in here a little bit, it gapped higher and the low was 110. And then it got, I don't know, got a downgrade or something. It came down to 110.66. So it tested that level and then retested at 110.30, retested again at 34, retested again at 31, and then started ticking higher. You can see the low on this day is 113. It trades higher. Now it's 119. You could just see the higher lows as it just starts trending with its moving average. Even when it pulled back, it just came down to 118. So it was never in danger of getting in that gap zone. Once it had cleared that test and retest of the lows. So they're going to report on Tuesday, I believe. And, it's nearly 7% above its 10. I don't like stocks trading that high above their moving 10 AMA on earnings day. I would like it if it pulled back, to like it's 21. But like I say, you can't always get what you want, right? All right. So that was Bros. Another one that I did buy, one that I like a lot. I like the new merchandise. I like the way it's action. I got to go to the weekly chart here. This is just an IPO base. I think the due diligence phase is over and it's definitely in its advanced phase. It hit right up against 100 on Friday. Let's see this weekly candle. Yeah, 99.84. Nice 36% move for the week. Thank you very much. You see it traded higher on news of new products. And then it, had a off week, the week prior to the election where, everything was kind of cautious right there. You could see that bull wedge pattern as it pulls back to its 21 right before the election. Then after the election, right? Actually, that's election day, had a huge move. That's its earnings day. That's why, yeah, 37% move. Makes a new high, then pulls back a little bit on Thursday near the close, and then trades up and closed at 99% of its daily range on Friday. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I believe it's going to take this 100 level out. Let me give me some time, maybe in the next couple of weeks. How about that? Now, it's one that I like a lot. I think, once again, why does the stock go up? Just like AppLovin and NVIDIA, these big triple digit, earnings growth numbers, and the sales growth. And they just announced new products and they're a partner of NVIDIA. They've got a lot to like about ALAB. And I mentioned earlier about the funds, the institutional support. It's got the Lord on its side. You always want the Lord on your side. That's Lord Abbott. And they could have got this thing at the IPO and just been holding, but Contra's got it. You want to see them adding here more shares. They don't have enough shares. They need more shares. So anyway, uh, yeah, I like ALAB a lot, obviously. Okay, Upwork is another one. Gap tire. I'm going to try to go through these a little quicker. Gap tire. And this one, I wanted to show this one because it undercut the low of the gap day. So this is one that I'm watching here. The buy point 1636 or whatever, but it went up to 1779, gap down below the low of the gap day, which is 1577. So for me, I'd definitely be careful if I own this stock. Might want to come pull back. But anyway, you can see it's trying to break out of a stage one base here. Probably needs a little more time. Commercial services staffing upward. That's been a pretty tough road in this current environment. IONQ, this is one that it was gyrated a lot after its earnings report, but you can see once again this bull wedge pattern. I caution ahead of the election and just blasted off. I think it was Thursday. They reported Wednesday evening, blasted off Thursday, 34% move. So you're seeing a lot of these stocks going up, 40, 50, this was up 67%. Um, App Lovin, I did show the weekly, it was up 77%. I mean, these are, what would be termed irrational moves, but the old saying, there's animal spirits in the market. You just can't fight the tape. Don't argue with the market. The market is speaking. LITE, another one. This is at a 28% move last week, gapped higher. So the low of the session is 8103. I would definitely be watching that level. PODD, I know some folks who like this stock own it. Why? Well, it's consolidating within a base here, trading tight near its moving averages as it consolidates in a base, shown the ability to move quickly. So this has got all the elements that I like in the stock. And then it popped, nearly 10% on Friday with, decent volume there. Still, not too extended from the buy point, but extended from the moving average, 10% above the 10. So I would just wait for it to calm down. And if it cuts that low of 253.84, it's a yellow flag for me. All right. I'm going to move on. STRL, another one. God, see, they're coming from all different, sectors of the market. This building heavy construction group has been really strong. Sterling is a leader in this group. Pull back once again. That bull wedge action as it pulled back to the moving average, just squatted there along the 21 right before the election, and then popped on Thursday. Fantastic move. So making new highs. Once again, the gap lows 169.19. And then on Friday, it's 194.07 was the high. Very nice move. Closed 98% of its daily range. And the low is 175.05. So gap, gap, go. Very nice move for Sterling. And there's a lot of stocks in that group that are making highs, and that's why it's one of the top 10 groups. I want to own top stocks in top groups, but everybody's got to have their own style, their own personality, their own tolerance level, their own time frames. They have to have their own system. This is Zillow, and it broke above a downtrending line here following earnings there. If a line touches three times, that's a legit line here. Once again, just gapping higher. And then on Friday, making new highs, which is what I want to see. Makes a high on Thursday of 74.05, fools around a little bit, but then makes another new high of 74.55. Let's see what that looks like on the, yeah, so it moved higher on Thursday and then gap lower. Some profit taking, right? The first half hour. Oops, then the buy programs come in, just take it way higher to new highs. So that looks very good with that 68.73 standard buy point for Zillow Group. All right. Oh, God, I've got too many of them here. Q2, I'm going to skip a couple of them because this is going to be a super long weekly review. This is QTWO, Q2 Holdings Software Group, Software Financial, which is a top 10 group. So strong stock and a strong group. I had it on my ready list back here at MC Stock Charts, and it gapped higher, and I kind of took it off because it got too extended. But all it did was just quietly trade higher along its moving averages. Even before the elections, when everything was cautious, barely pulled back to its moving average and gapped higher. Let's take a look at this on the weekly. Yeah, this looks pretty darn good. Earnings line now heading higher. Uh, just a yeah, nice move, nice stock that I don't hear anybody talking about. But we like new highs at mcstockcharts.com. All right, I got to go to a couple of. I mentioned there's a lot of groups breaking out. Here's Planet Fitness breaking higher after their earnings report. People are working out, right? No more COVID. They want to look good. And this is 98.59 was the high. Just had an inside day. The low on the gap day, 92.01. Yeah, 92.23. So it tested that. So let's look for a couple more retests as the moving averages catch up now. 11.8% above the 10. So you got to let that green line trade higher. Hope it just has a couple of sideways days and allows that to happen. So Planet Fitness looks good. RL, Ralph Lauren, apparel, clothing gapping higher. The XRT, the retail group, has not done very well, even though retail sales have been really strong. So it's kind of frustrating. The group is 112. And I got to get to it, like Deckers is a leader in the shoe group, and they just haven't done much. This is retail apparel clothing, though. And Ralph Lauren low on the gap day was 216.87, 218.09 on Friday. So holding the low of the gap. So Ralph Lauren looks good. And another one, the shoe group. I mentioned Deckers, and we got On Holdings reporting this week. And this is Wolverine. They make like rugged outdoor footwear and military footwear, and this gapped 35% higher, made a new high on Friday. So there's another stock nobody talks about making new highs. Looks fantastic. Okay, how about the medical group, the biotech? This is CPRX. They consistently report pretty good earnings here. And you can see the triple digit earnings growth, 15, 23, 25% sales growth. Very nice stock. You can see the gap higher and gap and go, just making new highs. So I like that one as well. DXPE, this is one stock that I traded back in the day, gapping higher. This was an IBD. Number one stock, I want to say back about 2003, 2004, when the dot-coms were crashing. Anyway, had a 21% move with volume. That was election day. The next day popped higher. So this is a no threat of taking out the low of the gap there. I do want to show the monthly here, though, and this is what I'm talking about. When the dot-coms were dying, this is one of the top stocks from IBD. Had a nice run for a long time when there was nothing to buy. Flattened out during the financial crisis and have been just a steady Eddie sideways stock since then, but definitely had a nice run back in the day. DXPE there distributes centrifugal pumps, bearings, flexible couplings. Yeah, just a industrial stock. Very nice move, though. I'm just pointing out that there's a lot of stocks from a lot of areas. This is Twilio, that software name that broke out the week before the election. I think it was Halloween that day. Yeah, some stocks really crashed on Halloween. This one, 14% move, just higher and higher and higher and higher. There's just nothing but buying in here. If we look at like a 10-minute chart, you can just see since the gap day, just relentless buying here in Twilio. And that was the week before that it gapped higher, not last week. And anyway, I did mention, yeah, okay, Carpenter. Ooh, pretty chart there. Gapped higher last week. This is once again, the leading stock in a top group, and yeah, gapped higher. This is after the election, 10%. So that one looks good too. It's another one that I like, just because it diversifies my portfolio instead of just being all AI stocks or biotech. I can get into something like Carpenter. TGTX reported last week, didn't gap higher, but I just like this chart. It actually went lower on earnings on Monday. I mean, the election was Tuesday, right? It popped a little bit. The next day following earnings, they reported Monday morning. The stock, let's go here, traded down to its 50 right there, a gap lower after really strong earnings. And then what happened the rest of the week? Nothing but buying. So I wanted to point that out. This is one that's still not too far extended from that 2641 standard buy area. This is a MS. It's got Briumvi, which is a MS drug, multiple sclerosis, best in show. And I think they're going to continue to deliver strong sales and earnings growth for years to come. They have a patent till 2039. So anyway, just wanted to point this out. This is your classic cup. This is an elongated handle. I mean, it went sideways for weeks and then it's finally starting to push away from its base. Not one of those big, gaps higher, just inching along like a little snail making higher prices. And I kind of like that in a stock. I don't need 40% moves in a week. This is fine. 7%, I'll take it as long as it does it every week. 3, 4, 5%, steady Eddie, rolling higher. I like that. All right. RVLB is my last one, I promise. Um, Gapped higher and then pulled back, which is it's not in a jeopardy of taking out the low of the gap day of 29.15 yet. I mean, it could, then it would be a different story. I would think differently, but it's just kind of pulling back to its move and allowing the moving averages to catch up. Once again, you see a very clear, distinct pattern here where it pulls back to the moving average and bounce, right? Pulls back, rises, pulls back, squats, and now gaps. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching. Monday is Armistice or Veterans Day, the 11th, but the market is open, so we'll honor the veterans on Monday by trading stocks. They really need to close it on that day. But anyway, in honor of the great Steve Jobs, I do have one more thing, and that is I want to point out earnings this week. You got to know your earnings dates, right? Um, Monday is reporting on Monday, of course. That's appropriate. ZETA, this thing is undercut its 50 and then rallied back above it. I like that move. 34.14 would be an area of interest for me if it's just reported earnings and pull back to, I don't know, allow the moving average to catch up. Might give you a chance. I don't want to chase this thing. It's not a real fast moving stock. Um, but yeah, 15% above its 10 EMA. So let's see that thing pull back a little bit. All right. Who else is reporting? Oh, Shopify reports this week. I'm interested in that. That thing has the ability to move. Home Depot reports, obviously, the retail, housing, construction plays will be impacted by Home Depot. SE, this one has the ability to really move. It's pulled back to its 21. I really like that pattern here. Made the high of 101.93 and then pulled back. So after they report, if you start to see this thing, ticking higher, this is one that I would be interested in. And same with the ONON. I mentioned the shoe group. They just cannot get out of their own way. And it really baffles me. This is one with real strong sales and earnings growth, and the retail names have just been struggling. I mentioned Deckers. This is a beautiful looking chart. It didn't have a bad week last week. Yeah, it was up 11%, but you could see this cup shape pattern. They already reported earnings. So, but it will be impacted by ONON reporting on Tuesday, I believe. Yeah, the 12th. All right. Other ones that I'm looking for, the old Maple Bear, CART, they report on the 12th, which is Tuesday. We have WULF. This is one that I believe Druckenmiller said he had bought. And once again, it's got that distinct pattern where it just pulls back to a moving average and rises higher. Spotify, this is one that I really like. And I would be interested in buying this if it pulls back after earnings, maybe to the 21, as long as the earnings are good. I got to clarify that. Couple of crypto names. I didn't mention the crypto stocks at all, but I like some of these. This is MARA, Mara Holdings. They report, and so does HUT. The HUT. This thing's really had a nice move from 8 to 19. So we'll see what they have to say. Then the cybersecurity space might impact Palo Alto, Zscaler, Crowd, Fortinet. We'll see. Cisco reports. Definitely a big networking company, might impact something like Arista Networks. But if you see on the weekly chart, this thing looks pretty darn good. This cup with handle pattern, 2-week pullback. Yeah, it moved 4% last week ahead of earnings. But yeah, I kind of like Cisco. I have a special place in my heart for Cisco Systems. And John Chambers, uh, DLO. Wow, gap lower, man, just squatted there for months and months. Anyway, they report on the 13th. Beazer Homes, we're going to hear from Beazer. Yeah, kind of a choppy chart there. We'll see what they have to say. Disney reports on the 14th, which is Thursday. Disney's kind of been in limbo here. We'll see if they can give us a little stronger report. TLN, this is the one that had the deal with Amazon. Energy play. Yeah, I kind of like this one a lot. You can see it broke above its downtrend line. I'm not going to buy this one ahead of earnings. I think GEV is the one to buy in the energy, alternative energy or power space. Um, Anyway, Applied Materials. This is a semiconductor equipment stock. They're reporting on Thursday. OKLO, which is I think that is Peter Thiel's company, I believe. I don't know. I read so much crap, I forget half of it. Anyway, they report there's a nuclear Power, they report on Thursday, and ASTS is the last one, highly speculative name. A lot of people like this one. I liked it, when it was doing this. I don't like it when it does. Yeah, I'm a front runner. I like them when they do this. I don't like them when they do that. So we'll see what they have to say. And this one has shown the ability to explode. So anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll celebrate the honor of the veterans on Monday. So never give up, never give in.